As a Tesla investor, how can you feel confident the share price will eventually skyrocket back up again? Well, you need to just listen closely to the milestones that are actually happening. First, we're going to show you that there are expansions that are likely happening right now at both Giga Berlin and the Megapack factory in Shanghai. Second, Tesla is investing heavily in building the best real-world AI team on Earth. So today we're joined by Amy. Amy is an airline pilot, and she has one of the incredible distinctions as one of the few who's actually invested in Tesla since its IPO in 2010. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate you joining me again.
Nice to be back, Herbert.
That's wonderful. Appreciate you. Summer has gone and we're going to have fun here. Thank you. So, what we're going to do today is cover a lot of the tweets you've been doing because you do such great job of deep diving into these important topics. And there's some incredible nuggets that you always point out. So, first, let's talk about the Giga Berlin expansion. So, Berlin Energy keeps a close eye on the Europe events, and he found an article written in I think it's Germany, of course, and talking about how discussions of the objections that Tesla had about no problems for soil, water, and air with plant, and that's talking about the potential expansion in Giga Berlin. And you start talking about how if this happens, this capacity will double, 1 million vehicles per year, 100 gigawatt hours of batteries, as much as Giga Nevada expansion. Planned battery expansion is another sign of 4680 ramp progress. Do you want to share us what you're thinking here?
Yeah, so we know that Tesla has said before, and it was actually in the shareholder deck on this last earnings call, though they refused to be pinned down for a number for 2024, that this year they're going to be slightly above 50%. This is going to the start of the goal, not just compared to the last year, on a 50% year over year growth. And they said it again that remains what Tesla is shooting for. So then the question as investor becomes, is Tesla on track to get there? Are they putting in the required factory expansions, the required production expansions? Do they have the battery cells that are coming in to make this happen? And this is what, as a long-term investor, some of the things that I look for. I look at Tesla on track to what they said that they're going to do, and then how much of those goals are already factored into Wall Street's models.
Yeah. And the other thing that you said that I thought was really good was this part right here, which is you're saying that is there going to be room for a Gen 3 line in Giga Berlin? Likely. Tesla's goal is to localize production to the end user and localize the supply chain to the factory. This is how Tesla simplifies and solves the logistic challenges of moving massive tonnage of materials, right? And then this is the part I love, which is just basically point out the obvious, which is in poor macro times with increased political risk, expanding existing factories is both easier to ramp and less costly. Still represents significant capex, and building new ones, these new gigafactories are $5 billion and take longer to ramp. The new gigafactories further drag in margins. And so, when you point this out, it's so obvious when people go, oh, they're going to, take the foot off. They're not going to invest heavily in Giga Mexico. But you're saying they're going to expand. And this makes so much sense in the macro times. You want to comment on that?
One thing that we know about Tesla is that they have the ability to not only be pivot and agile in design of vehicles, but in the way they run the entire company. And this is one example of that. So at first, the goal was just go big, and this is a very Elon Musk thing. We're going to build his new alien dreadnought factory. We're going to do the whole unbox process and a new way to produce vehicles, and we're going to do this massive factory in Mexico that will be the point where we do make all of these things happen. In the unbox process, many of the steps of it are things that Tesla will already have practice with by the time they get to the new factory. Things like the 48-volt wiring that's going to be a key component for reducing cost in the Gen 3 vehicle, and allows power over Ethernet, is already starting with a Cybertruck. So it's not like every part of the process was new, but Walter Isaacson's book told us that once Elon Musk started thinking about it and how difficult it is actually, as we're seeing with the Cybertruck right now, to ramp vehicles, he decided it was really critical that the engineers be next to the pilot production line and the ramping production line. And so between the investor day meeting and the announcement of the factory, which was March 1st, by May, they already decided that the pilot production line for Gen 3 was going to be in Austin. And then, according to Walter Isaacson's book, there's been significant work, like weekly work by Elon Musk and the engineers, going over every single manufacturing station for the next gen vehicle for the Austin line. So we already know it's not starting in Mexico. So it sounds bad when we hear on the earnings call maybe there's a pause on when Mexico develops, but we know it's starting in space they found in the existing factory in Texas. So if they can do that in Texas, why can't they do that in Shanghai? Why can't they do that in Berlin? Not likely Fremont, because Fremont is incredibly full. But we know when they ramped the Model 3, they did it in a tent. They had a tent line for the production. So there's no reason for Tesla to do all this expenditure over a new factory. And we have to just be used to thinking as agilely when we're evaluating Tesla's plans as Tesla is in making them.
Yeah. This is what I loved about the tweet you did or the post you did, which is this part right here. Long lead times like industrial machines are being ordered. Those machines can be sent to other factories. That happened before when 4680 machines were destined for Berlin was sent to Austin because of the IRA. So even though they said they're going to delay the Giga Mexico expansion, they've already been thinking about this and they've already moved those factories. And you're saying that Gen 3 would build first in Austin. We know that. One possibility for Gen 3 production expansion would be expansions saved factory space in Shanghai and Berlin next. And Mexico could be the second wave of production expansion. Tesla is leaving optionality open. And then you say Tesla is also expanding Nevada, Austin, Shanghai, and retooling Lathrop. Tesla is a growing company that is as agile in growth plans as it is in every other aspect of the business. Tesla makes a plan, evaluates if it's working out as desired, or if circumstances change, and then pivots. This is what I want in a management team: agile, realistic growth. So, you know, I love it. Which is again, when you say it, it makes so much sense. Which is, what everybody heard in the earnings call was they're taking their foot off the pedal, and they're going to slow things down. But actually, they're expanding everywhere. So that's great.
And one correction, they are ramping Lathrop. They are retooling Cannon Road, which is the
Mhm.
4680 battery facility. I used the wrong word there. But in Tesla's plans for the next short-term growth, they do have enough capacity, it looks like, to be able to meet significant growth targets for next year. And most of Wall Street doesn't have over 28% in. That is the average that Wall Street has in 2024 for their growth target for Tesla. So if you just look at improving production capacity in Berlin, improving production capacity in Shanghai and in Fremont, and Texas, they get there right there. But then we see this ongoing massive factory expansions with the existing factories that are happening. And so the only thing that they said is we may, depending on what macro happens with the macro environment, choose not to build the new factory at this time. And in my opinion, that would likely just be making the second phase of massive volume on the next gen.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the Shanghai Megapack factory. So this article is September 4th. It talks about how the Shanghai Megapack factory construction is scheduled to start by the end of the third quarter. And since it was already September, we should be looking forward to Tesla China starting the building of the local Megapack factory over the next few weeks. And it's supposed to be, initial production capacity for this Megapack factory is 10,000 units per year or 40 gigawatt hours. And then so now we've got Wu Wa. He's fantastic. He's always doing these videos of flyovers for Shanghai. And he's pointing out that there might be land east of the Shanghai factory that could be for the factory expansion. So I'm going to play that video while we do. You're basically pointing out that Mega Shanghai, great name, Megapack factory in Giga Shanghai, did it just start construction? This is the drone video we're going to shows a space bulldozed and cleared next to the main factory and possibly and then of course you're reminding us that the cattle Shanghai battery cell factory, which is so close to Giga Shanghai, that they've just now in operation. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Why don't you speak to it as we're watching it?
Yeah, so if you look at this, then number one, look at how production has it definitively ramped after the retooling for the new Model 3. Model 3. There's a lot of cars on the delivery docks that were shown early in the video. There's a lot of cars around the factory. It is definitely back to full
Yeah.
production. Now, one of the things that's going to be really different about the mega Shanghai is once again Tesla has gotten special permission from the Chinese government to fully own their factory and all the products that they produce. Normally in China, people need a joint venture, companies need a joint venture partner to be able to do business in China. Tesla got that a special dispensation once with the EV plant. That dispensation is open for other manufacturers, but nobody's really taking advantage of it. And then this was an entirely different one. It had to go through a different process on the energy side to be able to produce these mega pack batteries in Shanghai. They're destined for export to be put on ships at that port that is right there to go around the world. And this is a really key part of solving Master Plan 3. It is the mega pack in energy stationary energy storage to remove the entire grid to renewable energy is going to be 24 terawatt hours of energy required. So there's more than enough room for all the competition in the mega pack and the energy storage market. And they'll still be short and they'll still be waiting on supply. So it is not a demand limited product. And we do know that Tesla has a waiting list.
Okay. So I think this is the space here that we're pointing out, right? This east of the factory looks like it's bulldozed over. Is that it?
Yeah. Yes, this is
Yeah.
the space that we're looking at. That according to WOA, this is a recent change. It does also dovetail right in to when the construction was supposed to start. Tesla would be right on time if this is what this is. That it was supposed to
Oh,
start at the end of quarter three, 2023, for construction and then production in the end of the first half, beginning the second half of 2024.
okay, fantastic. So you've pointed out that we've got Texas expanding. We've got Megapack factory in Shanghai expanding. Now let's talk about the different products. So we've
Yeah.
got all sorts of new products coming out, right? And so again, just to put everything in context. So this is part of your tweet here, and you're saying that you've got the new model. So you got new Model 3 that's now being delivered in Europe. That there was news that came out this morning. US possibly gets the refresh Model 3 the first half of 2024 to correspond with the point of sale 7500 IRA credit. The Cybertruck delivery events next coming up in the end of this month. Model Y or end of November. Model Y produced in Shanghai also getting new features like R&B Lightning. You want to talk about these new products?
Yeah. So, Tesla consistently cannot shake this demand question, despite the fact that Tesla is selling every single EV that they make, and that's the only thing that Tesla is required to do. And we know that they have over a million orders, some say 2 million for the Cybertruck. So as the Cybertruck comes out, and we know it has this large wait list, the new Model 3 Highland it's now just the new Model 3. We can drop the Highland because that was just an internal code word.
Mhm.
Is getting rave reviews everywhere it goes. That's now being delivered in Europe. It will be delivered in Asia, and then in the U.S., we know the factory has been shut down for a couple days for retooling. The Tesla guided to retooling in all the factories, and Tesla bypassed answering this question on the earnings call. So it is coming. The question is when it comes, and given the way that Tesla plans as a company, being somewhat coordinating with the timing of the new point of sale credit for the IRA Act, where they get the $7,500 discount at the point of sale right off the top, decreasing their monthly payments would be amazing timing. And so we're going to have buzz on top of buzz. We're going to have buzz with the Cybertruck event. We're going to have buzz with the new Model 3. And then that Model Y in Shanghai, they've added some of the nice, pretty features that make it look modern that they included in the Model 3.
And then you point out that this next gen unbox process, you talked about it a little bit earlier already in the call, but I, I have this Walter Isaacson part of the book here. Sorry, but so you said that next gen pilot production line is being developed in Austin, and according to the book, right, he started in May, and then this is what he said in the book. So in May, he decided to change the initial build location for the next gen cars and robotaxis to Austin, where he has his own workspace and that of his top engineers are right there. And then through the summer of 2023, this has already happened. He spent hours each week working with his team to design each station of the line, finding ways to shave milliseconds of each step and process. Very clear that they already have a line and they've been working on it. And you just kind of remind us that the global market for this is massive. It could be up to 700 million of them. And the need for a small car, twice as many for the Model 3 and Model Y. And then they showed the same vehicle platform and the same assembly lines could be used to make the $25,000 car the robotaxi. So your tweet, next gen, at a price point of sub 25,000. I'm going to ask you if you did you confirm? Did we hear that sub 25,000 has an enormous addressable market from an income standpoint? Cars at that price do almost twice the volume. A lower priced uh, sees initial volumes of 4 to 5 million from just that car, and also expands out countries that Tesla can probably sell in. Yeah, you want to speak to that?
We I mean, the pricing is always subject to change with Tesla, but
Yeah.
now that the Model 3 is priced where it is, and the goal is to produce a car for roughly half the price. So that's where that number is coming from. And for half the for 40% expense, half the time, half the factory space. There's a lot of reductions that they're trying going for in the next gen vehicle. But most important from a long term investor's standpoint is if you walked away from the earnings call thinking that Tesla was slowing growth or was no longer going to be this disruptive company, we see all these other plans that tell us otherwise. And in fact, on the shareholders deck, they reaffirmed that the next gen program was on track. So they're exactly tracking to what their goals are, and you can see that with the Walter Isaacson's book, with the confirmation of the pilot line, of the working on the tooling of the production line, of the two models. And there is a note in the book that Elon Musk was now is extremely enthusiastic now about both designs, that he absolutely loves them. He thinks it looks like the future. And Walter Isaacson described it as having just a Cybertruck futuristic feel, not necessarily looking like a Cybertruck, but having that same disruptive feel when it comes around the corner of instantly making everything else look dated.
Yeah. Thank you. Ooh, so much. I love your tweets. I mean, they're very, very complete. So just to complete your this thread here, you said that the $25,000 price point is below the average sales price of a used car in the US, which is 28,000. So that's below the average sales price of a used car. Wow. This will expand the new Tesla buyer to those who normally would be used vehicle. Who would buy used an already worn gas vehicle when they could have a Tesla for less? The Tesla stretch, further reducing the number of ICE vehicles on the street. Where did you get this? Is amazing point. I've not heard this before. Are you? Did you get this? This is brilliant.
Yeah, no, I just I when there's all of the controversy just around Tesla's price cuts and
Right.
pricing, I did a lot of research at that time, and you know that Tesla used to peg the Model 3 pricing to the average price of a new
Right.
used car in the US. And now the Model Y sits there. It's the both of the bottom two trim models of the Model Y without an IRA tax credit are below that price point, which is now around 4,900 in the US for a new car. Whereas for it, and in the US for a used car at 29,000, you can see that with the credits, the Model 3 is getting very close to the price of a used car, and Gen 3 will very definitively be underneath that. And so Tesla is dramatically expanding out the addressable market. Wall Street definitively is only looking at the new car market when they decide what type of market share Tesla can command. They are not including any of this used car market in it, but Tesla is going to be start competing in that area.
Okay. I love that. That's a brilliant point. I need to cut it out. We need to spread that word around. That is a big deal if that happens, when that happens. Okay. So in the earnings call, you pointed this out, which is the most important words said on that earnings call is when Elon said this. He said, the Tesla has the best real world AI team on earth, period. And it's going to get better. He said those are the most important words said in the earnings call because AI is going to transform the world, but many, many companies are trying to capitalize on the change. But Tesla's unique. One, they lead in real world AI, which is practical AI is more difficult than generative AI, as the accuracy required is much higher. Two, they're self funding their AI. That's a big deal. You're right. I mean, If another company is trying to do AI and they're a startup, they have to fund that startup. They have to buy the supercomputers. They have to buy all everything, and then Tesla's able to kind of repurpose everything. AI compute power is now doubled. Hardware software products that can be inexpensively produced at scale once solved. Autobidder, FSD bot, everything just scales. And then of course they can use, like you said, this AI across all of Tesla's processes. Tell us more about AI and Tesla.
Okay, so the significance of Tesla as an AI company is something that Adam Jonas wrote about. That report was very well received by Wall Street because it's true. Because Tesla is an AI company. They do both hardware and software. They self-fund their AI research. They're going to spend $2 billion this year, and they're doing that out of free cash flow. It's not like they're eating into their cash reserves to be able to do that. In fact, Tesla has reiterated that all these growth plans, the factory expansions, Dojo, Optimus, and AI FSD, they're going to be able to fund out of free cash flow, which is a very major point. When we look at AI itself, there's a lot of barriers to entry. The cost of compute, the unavailability of compute. Tesla already has Dojo, and then when we look at their NVIDIA cluster that they just put into place, at first, Elon Musk was saying this is way more difficult than we thought. But on this last earnings call, he said that that cluster is now up and running, and in fact, they think that they've done it quicker than anyone else in the world has been able to do it. Tesla has the data; they produce both hardware and software, and then they have that real world practical AI that they're experts in, which is a lot harder because the accuracy required is so much higher. So if you look at FSD, if FSD gets it wrong, so people can die. If ChatGPT gets it wrong, we all have a laugh on the internet. So it's a very different level of a standard.
Okay, this is great. Amy, I'm looking forward to more of your deep dives in AI because you have done this show with me since the beginning of this year, and almost exclusively every show we did was you teaching all of us about energy and batteries. Now we're actually seeing everything you were forecasting. It's happening, right? We're seeing the margins, we're seeing the volume, we're seeing the sales. Now you're going to start talking about the AI. Here's a point, another point you made here that just blows me away that I didn't think about or I have not heard other people talk about. I think this is quite important. So you sent this tweet out. So of course the earnings call talked about Tesla Energy, and that's going to offset the macro swings first. Okay, but the other story you say is the next area of disruption, AI. Okay, but this part here, few people know this. Tesla has already monetized products like FSD Beta and Auto Bidder. Tesla's not just an auto company, but short term will remain volatile. So the part that you're pointing out is that Tesla's already monetized certain AI products. I mean, there's going to be more. Do you want just anything more to add to that?
Yeah, this is when there is so many AI companies out there, and when I look at the difference of when I chose to invest in Tesla in 2010, yeah, it's hard to determine which company could do what Tesla did. And I hoped, and I really thought there was a good possibility Tesla would do what it did, but I didn't know. If you try and make that same decision right now with AI and choose out which of all these contenders is going to be one of the big players in AI down the road, it's almost an impossible choice until you look at someone like Tesla. Because what Tesla is really good at is practical, monetizable, scalable products that they get out there actually in the marketplace in high volumes and make money from. And there's very few companies making money from AI at this point. There's a lot of things that catch the public attention that make X go wild, but Tesla is already earning money from FSD, even though it's a beta. They are already earning money from AutoBidder, and they are able to apply the same AI that they're getting paid for, and they are developing again out of the free cash flow to Optimus within that vision-based AI. So it's a really exciting story. And because there's not like the robotaxi isn't ready to be turned on yet. So he just was on a spaces with Gary Black. He's like, I can't include that in my model until I have a little bit more to go on. He's very willing to put it in the model, but he's not willing to put it in the model until he knows Tesla has a level 4 product. So it's not that Wall Street can't clearly see this path, but it's not in the models yet. And this is what you look at or I look at as a retail investor of where are the gaps in valuation between what Wall Street has there and what we think that Tesla is going to do. And then when I actually track, and I'm very careful about tracking, is Tesla actually on track path to do this? What is the competition doing? Does the product look good? Does it look scalable? Does it look monetizable? And we're already seeing a lot of uh, breadcrumbs with AI that all of these things are the case.
Yeah, so this is a problem I've been doing, which is I've not myself thinking that Tesla's. I know that Tesla's an AI company, but I've not really registered that they're already making money. Of course, I understand that they're selling FSD, uptake of FSD. That I get, but Autobidder, and then I'm waiting for Dojo to come online. But there's probably going to be a lot of other products, as you're pointing out, that they're going to be able to sell as we move along. So that's a good point. Okay, then this other point here, which is the earnings per share versus the share price. I follow the milestones. I look backwards, and you can basically see that the core every time they do an earnings call, that's when if it's usually not all the time, that's when not only do you see a drop in the share price in that first week, but then if it's good numbers, it's what delivers the high jumps in the share price. Now we've seen the share price kind of lag for over a year, but that's why I like what you point out here, which is this is coming from another person, another user called @Lootster, who found this. But the paragraph says over the last 3 years, on average, earnings per share has increased by 65% per year, but the company's share price has only increased by 16% per year, which means that the share price is significantly lagging earnings growth. So we kind of know that it's been lagging, but it's just nice to put the numbers on that, and that's the last paragraph here of this summary that pointed this out. And eventually, you can't ignore it. The share price will eventually catch up. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, and this is what would be called a re-rate, and the stock can re-rate upward and it can re-rate downward. And this happens when Wall Street has things like when we're talking about AI that are not yet in the models, and then all of a sudden Wall Street updates their models. They add that in, and that drives a different valuation for the stock. So we have multiple high growth products of the future, possible disruptive markets that Tesla is working on that are not yet part of Wall Street's valuation. Now, Elon Musk did give us a warning, and that's one of the reasons why the stock is trading downward of possible difficult macro times ahead. So, in the short term, it could be volatile, it could even re rate slightly downward for a time period. But if you look at long term, there are all these projects that Tesla is already funding, is like tooling production lines for. We saw them. They're hiring people for the Optimus production line, so they're doing a design for manufacturing. Where right from the beginning, they're making sure that they can produce Optimus at high volumes and at a profitable price point. So there's a lot of upside in the future. When it comes to the long term future of Tesla, I could not be more bullish. But in the short term, I do expect some pain, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you actually have been warning about that, right? You said that you yourself are make sure you have cash in case whatever happens this following year. But so fantastic. So thank you for doing that. You did a bunch of deep dives, right? We talked about Giga Berlin, Shanghai Megapack Factory, the potential new vehicles that are out there, AI, and then now we're talking about these the potential earnings per share. Just putting some numbers to it. So folks, you need to be following Amy. I think you've changed your user what do you call it, the handle of your X account, right? Your underscore SF Tahoe TAHOE
Yeah, no
underscore.
more three underscores.
But there's
Maybe
still an
we have all these
underscore.
extra ones that have been used by someone before, and I was able to get it.
Underscore SF Tahoe TAHOE. Thank you so much, Amy. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.